The Washington Wizards are finalizing a trade to send three-time All-Star guard Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns for a package that's expected to include Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, several second-round picks, and a pick swap. Our senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, reported on Sunday that the deal could take a few more days to be completed, but Beal is on his way to the Suns to form a new Big Three with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. We now welcome back the man that broke the news, Woj. So how exactly did this trade come together?
Richard, once Michael Winger, the new president in Washington, and Bradley Beal, his agent Marc started talking about what a future looked like with the Wizards, and it was clear that Winger did not see a pathway to contending with this roster or with any roster that could be put together in the next year or two. It was clear to Bradley Beal that it was time after 11 years to look elsewhere and find a trade. They worked together, and there was no team more aggressive, I'm told, than the Suns in trying to acquire Bradley Beal, and I think none more willing to take on the $200 million plus left on the final 4 years of his contract. And I think for Washington, getting that contract off the books, not having to take on any future money, then the second-round picks, certainly pick swaps, and the draft capital. Again, Bradley Beal having the no-trade clause played certainly a significant role in what the marketplace looked like. He didn't have to go anywhere he didn't want to, but there were not a lot of teams who were really aggressive in offering up deals that were better than Washington's and willing to take on the rest of Beal's contract. And I think a huge part of that is the new collective bargaining agreement, the new salary cap, and how that's going to play out here over the next few years.
They have over $620 million tied up in these three players. Good for them. All right, we're back with our full panel. Perk, do you think that Bradley Beal was the right guy to go all in for?
Yes. We're talking about a guy that just a little over 2 years ago was averaged 30 twice in the NBA season. Here's the thing. I know right now they're top heavy, but when it comes down to having three of the most prolific scorers on one team, that's what the Phoenix Suns have. And I think the one thing that we don't look at when it comes down to Bradley Beal is his ability to play make. He's an underrated playmaker in this game. So he could play off the ball. You could put him on the ball. His decision-making is on point. He has a very high IQ. And we've seen Kevin Durant slide to the point forward position, and we never could question how he could make others around him better. This past postseason, we watched Devin Booker take a leap in growth in his PG skills when Chris Paul went out. I think this was a great move for the Phoenix Suns, and they're not done yet. This is just the start, but it's a hell of a start. And also, I'm going to end on this. They should be the favorites of winning the Western Conference. With those three guys, they should be the favorite, period. Let's not overthink this.
Marc, do you agree with Perk?
RJ,
Marc?
believe it or not, man, I covered a young, skinny Perk in Boston. And in 2007-08, Perk played with a really great big three with KG, Ray, and Paul. That's something I think that this group needs to look at. But let's forget about OKC and Kevin's time in Brooklyn. I think the thing that Kevin really needs to push on this team is to play like he did when he was with the Warriors. You know, KD averaged 26, Clay averaged 21, and Steph averaged 27 in that last year there. So in that team in Boston, as you see right there, they were able to figure it out collectively. There was no egos. They're trying to win a championship. But Kevin Durant knows the blueprint to win, knows the blueprint to unselfishness and how to find each other's shots. And those three guys together, man, they're going to get the easiest shots of their life, just like Kevin did with the Warriors. So I think that's the blueprint that helps the Suns.
I mean, did we just not learn anything by watching the Denver Nuggets the last 2 months? They have a team. The Denver Nuggets have a team.
But who's their third? Who's the number three guy?
You don't need to have 3 stars. You need to have a team. You have a whole squad. Yeah. And the Denver Nuggets beat the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs with basically this construction, and now you swap Brad Beal in there, I think that's great. I think he is a good fit. He's going to space the floor for them because I think one of the issues that, like, Book and KD had a great two-man game going. They had a lot of space around them. DeAndre Ayton is, look, they're going to have to figure out what to do with him, and he's going to have to figure out how he fits into this if he does stay in Phoenix. But the Denver Nuggets just showed us what happens when you build a team through the draft, all the way up and down the lineup. You have complementary players like Aaron Gordon. Okay, we're just gonna do the three stars again. But there's no depth. And here's the thing with this new CBA, it is so hard to add to a team when you're this far over what's going to be called the second apron. And let's stop. I know we're going to call it that, but it's a hard cap. And they just saw the hard cap and they're like, we're not going to go a little over it. We're just going to go blow past it. We're going to just go way so far over it that it doesn't even exist. Maybe there'll be a third apron for them because they're so far over it they'll never get back under it. And I think everybody who's on that current team is going to have to stay because they will not be able to replace anybody or make any moves going forward.
Look, I'm not going to say that we've never seen this before, but this is a very unique situation. They have a brand new head coach. They don't have a system in place. Kevin Durant just got there 6 months ago. This is not what happened with the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors had a coach, had a system, had everything in place, but we're going to talk so much more about this
all summer long.
I think me and Perk are going to argue a bunch. But still to come on NBA Today, hush your mouth. All right, now it's unlikely that Chris Paul will be suiting up for the Wizards. Woj reported that they are looking at a third team that would, send Chris Paul to a contender. Now, Ramona, what do you think the future is for Chris Paul?
I think that we end up with a buyout situation here in Washington, but you know what? He's been here before in Oklahoma City when they traded for him, and he ended up playing that year with Oklahoma City. I think a lot of us were surprised that didn't end up in a buyout situation. I don't see anyone trading for him. I think that that market had been explored before this trade, and he has a $30 million contract. It's 15 of which is guaranteed, and so I think if it ends up in a buyout, I think it's up to Washington if they want to do that for him and what that even looks like. But I think Chris Paul has made it pretty clear. He either wants to win a championship and play for a contender or be closer to his family here in Los Angeles. Phoenix was pretty close, just a jet SweetX flight away. Los Angeles, they got two teams that would need a point guard. So if I was looking at both of them, I would say the Clippers would be more likely than the Lakers because of the fit issues. But there's an interesting clip going around, Chris Paul talking about Tyronn Lue and how much respect he has for him as a head coach.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a 5-hour drive from Washington, D.C. to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Chris Paul's never played in the Eastern Conference. And Ramona mentioned Oklahoma City. Do you remember that when Chris was playing for the Thunder, everybody thought he was going to ask out. Everybody thought he was going to be upset about it. And he was a consummate professional. He made that team better, and he willed them to much greater success than anybody ever expected. So Washington knows that. Like, Chris is such a gamer that he's not going to go there and just give up and walk away and stomp his feet based on what happened in Oklahoma City. But that being said, Ramona and I also know he's like L.A. through and through now. His 2 kids are there. His wife's there. To have that opportunity to not only have your kids close by, put Los Angeles on your chest for either city, but also get ingrained in the LA community in terms of television. With Bob Iger giving him some mentorship. I think being in LA is probably his number one choice, regardless to which team it is.
Perk, do any of these scenarios for CP3, do you see any of these kind of in your eyes of what you know about it? Is there one, do you think, that would be a best fit for him?
Well, just CP3 and I are the same age. So that means that his time is running out when it comes down to his basketball career. And there's no disrespect to him, but I think I know CP3 wants to win a title. And when I look at the 2 LA teams, he can't go wrong with either one. But if I had to pick one for him, it would actually be the Lakers. And I go back to when they won the championship in the bubble, and I look at what Rondo did for Anthony Davis. Rondo every single night got Anthony Davis 8 to 10 easy buckets. Hell, he even got LeBron James 6 to 8 easy points a night. So when I think about what CP3 and AD could do in the pick and roll, because everybody talk about the relationship with LeBron and CP3 and how close they are, and rightfully so. But I'm looking at how can you maximize and get the most out of Anthony Davis? And you do that by putting up one of the best to ever do it for us floor generals on the floor with him so you can make the game easy for AD. It's too many times that we have seen this past season that he have to work too hard to get buckets. Adding CP3 to this will help everybody on the Lakers get easier looks.
That would be a fun full circle after the Chris Paul trade that did not happen earlier in his career.
It would be an interesting one.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.